Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, currently on vacation, but the market never stops, so we'll do a quickie check-in because I've got slow upload speed, but after significant weakness this past week, we need to know, is it all over? Are we headed to monthly consolidation, or is the worst over for now and we're going to get some bounce follow-through? So currently in St. John for another few days, not doing a lot of trading, but I am stopping out of some positions with this weakness, which is increasing my cash even more. For example, earlier in the week, traded Meta and CRML, the critical metal play, and they were gap down mornings, played the hourly bounce, sold 2/3 of the position into that initial bounce, stick a stop under the low, and try and hold the swings for a bigger bounce. And we kept dropping. So stopped out of those. Also had a Tesla position, was playing that potential weekly cup and handle, but I didn't have enough profit cushion by the time the shareholder vote came around, and being away, I said, nope. I don't want to care about a shareholder vote on vacation, so sold that position around 450, and now we're watching the sideways range in Tesla between the 14s and 470. But let's talk about the indices. The NASDAQ weekly EMA 12 is being tested. We've held this level multiple times on the way up over the last 6 months on this bounce. And in my opinion, what happened this past week is we started with the inevitable normal healthy consolidation after you go straight up to new all-time highs. And the clear drop was on Tuesday. We had a 4-hour equilibrium on the futures. You can see these inside bars got real tight. Clear bear break. Okay, no major red flag. But in my opinion, once we started getting the headlines of longest government shutdown ever, it did start to impact the severity of the drop. And you've heard me say many times that if you're going to get significant weakness in markets, you do need a narrative to go along with it, because you have to convince retail and the general public to sell things. And so, in my opinion, as soon as you get that headline, longest government shutdown ever, that then opens the door for this time is different. Because every other time, we've traded through a ton of government shutdowns. The market generally goes up through them, but it's always resolved fairly quickly, which is why the market doesn't really care about it. The longer it drags on, the more potential economic implications, yada, yada. And so in my opinion, as it became clear that we were breaking records and this time was different in that regard, fear picked up a little bit. And so I'm going to be watching that progress a bit more closely, because I do believe that it's going to be tied to price in the short term and the headlines. And you can check on Polymarket. It tells you, probabilities that it's going to happen after November 16th is 50 whatever percent. The probabilities it's going to happen this weekend, the 8th to the 11th, is something like 10% right now. And there's enough volume on that Polymarket bet that it is valid to keep an eye on. There's millions of dollars being traded. So that's what I'm watching. And, it matters in the sense that, okay, we were very weak Thursday into Friday on the drop, but headline risk over the weekend potentially against the bears, where if a deal was done, the fact that the Senate's working through the weekend, then, that would potentially trap some bears a bit with a potential gap up Sunday night into Monday. So we did get a bounce on Friday, and you know me, I like my EMA 12 riders. Look at the 15-minute chart here. Every time I'm starting the morning, I'm just looking at the pre-market action on the futures chart and saying, what's my guide? Where is it most clear? And so we're dropping, and the 15-minute EMA 12 is driving the price down. And that was my guide. The bears have complete control as long as that is the support. I'm trying to pull up some things here. So I start the morning at 8:15 a.m. before the open. Futures 15-minute downtrend and EMA 12 resistance guide for the last few hours. That's my morning full bear control guide. That means if that's resistance, the bears have full control. And so we then 10:45 in the morning, bears have full control of short term as long as the NASDAQ 15-minute EMA 12 is resistance. We then tested it in the afternoon, rejected initially, 15-minute high or low. As soon as you break that resistance, and again, search Chart Guys EMA 12 rider. I did a whole video about this, but as soon as you confirm that 15-minute uptrend, the probabilities that you're going to get over 15-minute EMA 12 increase significantly. And then we had a scenario where we want to back test and hold it as support. Bulls need to hold the 15-minute EMA 12 as support on the back test. Otherwise, we may be forming a quick hourly lower high and a bear flag. We drop down, we test it, and we hold it, and then we held it into the end of the day. as that hourly bounce got some follow through. So the bounce is underway, but we still have to confirm an hourly uptrend if we're going to see any kind of significant follow through. So if we get to Sunday night futures open and we don't have a deal, we may see hourly consolidation as a result, a little bit of red. And then on Monday, it's up to the bulls to confirm the hourly uptrend if we are going to see. And at that point, we might be on the 4-hour time frame for clarity, but got to confirm that uptrend if we're going to see the daily bounce get going. And then we zoom out. And then we look for a daily lower high. This is just a stair-step drop from all-time highs. Every single day was a lower high 6 days in a row. Some people are looking at SPY and QQQ and saying, have we confirmed a daily downtrend? You could say so on those, but for me, the futures chart is what matters the most. That's where there's the most information, and it's a clear stair-step drop. And so we have to see the clear lower high and lower low if we're going to say this is the first clear downtrend that the bears have gotten in the last 6 months, and that will be notable. It was significant to me, the low of Wednesday breaking, because if you remember the past couple of videos, I was talking about this previous resistance being back tested as support. And we had a really good test and hold of that on Wednesday for both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. And so in an ideal world for bulls, that's your higher low, and the daily bounce gets going. And so as soon as we break that low on Thursday, it's a red flag for me in the sense that, okay, now a daily lower high is the most likely scenario for me next time we bounce. There's a lot of space for it. And, once the daily bounce gets going, we're then going to be talking about, okay, is this a head and shoulders pattern shaping up on a daily bounce? But first off, get the daily bounce going with a confirmed hourly or 4-hour uptrend, depending on how long it takes Sunday night into Monday. And then keeping an eye out for a daily lower high to be the result of that bounce. Can the bears confirm the downtrend? And the S&P 500 is the same thing. Weekly EMA 12 is support. And why that matters is if we confirm the daily downtrend, we're going to lose weekly EMA 12. And there'll be a number of things we could say, this is the first time this has happened in 5 or 6 months. And then we'll look for that monthly consolidation. And again, we shouldn't be surprised in the slightest the next time we see monthly consolidation. After 7 green months in a row, and a straight up bounce of whatever it was on the NASDAQ, 50%, 40, whatever percent, monthly consolidation is not going to be surprising when it happens. I also keep having this little contrarian thought in the back of my head. Everybody is certain that we're going to get a seasonality run into the end of the year. That's definitely what probabilities favor and has happened time and time again over the even recent years. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what would catch the market most by surprise? Monthly consolidation to end the year. I mean, if you were to go to red, whether it's November or December into monthly consolidation, I think a lot of people would be surprised by that. So now that's on the table for me. But again, confirm the daily downtrend is step number 1, and we'll take it from there if that's going to happen. If the bounce gets going and then that's it, that's the low that we hit at this point, then bulls keep their full control. But it's been the 4-hour downtrend, the defense at resistance. Bears have been impressive on their control here. It's just a question, can they remain impressive? So semiconductors still leading the way. EMA 12 support, uptrend guide, stair step just broke for the first time in months. So again, no major red flags on the weekly chart there. Is it a potential daily head and shoulders? We'll have to see. Trying to get the reversal candle on Friday. Got to confirm the hourly uptrend. That's going to be the theme on so many things because the bounce was started in the later morning, went through into the close, confirm the trend change into the daily bounce to start this coming week is what the bulls need to do. What we did see during this consolidation is rotation taking place. It was semiconductors and the NASDAQ leading the way down, and both XLF and XLV were green on the week. This is XLF on the weekly time frame. You can see pretty much sideways for a month. That tightening range is going to break within the next couple of weeks. And we had XLV also green and closing right up near that high, recent 6-month highs or whatever it's been. But it wasn't enough to offset the other sectors. So again, the weight and the holdings of big tech and semiconductors are going to offset these sectors, but there is rotation taking place. And so that's one little check mark for the bulls where, if this bounce gets going from here and it's all sectors bouncing together, then XLV is going to very quickly hit new 6-month highs, and XLF is going to potentially break this tightening range bull and head back to an all-time high test. So that's going to be the next major thing that I'm watching. Can bulls confirm these little uptrends to get the daily bounces going? When they do, is it the NASDAQ and semiconductors going up and these other sectors going down again? Or is everything bouncing together as some of this fear gets alleviated? So that's going to be important for me in analyzing the market as a whole in the coming weeks ahead. Meta, definitely interested in this bounce. Again, I stopped out break even at something like 625. The gap down that I played was Tuesday, I suppose. So again, reverse solid bounces in many names, but we've got to confirm the hourly uptrend. And then we're going to zoom out and look for a daily lower high eventually. And then we'll take it from the daily time frame. Can we confirm a daily uptrend to get this oversold bounce going? But definitely interested in names that have space. Bulls are going to be looking for hourly higher lows versus low of Friday next time we see consolidation. If we open lower on Monday because we didn't get a deal, and maybe that's a little bit of a bearish reaction, then we're going to look for that hourly higher low versus the low of Friday on Monday. If we open higher on Monday, we're going to remind ourselves, okay, that's great. Daily bounce is underway, but we still haven't confirmed hourly uptrends in all these names. Quantum names, watching for weekly lower highs eventually. Bulls are trying to bounce. You can see IONQ, sector leader, little double bottom down at $50. And QBTS has a very similar setup, holding its recent low, 26.37. We held that by 5 pennies, so a little double bottom down there. Weekly EMA 12 is support. So if this bounce gets going in the quantum names, I will be watching for a weekly lower high to be the result of that bounce because of how much we did pull back. For example, QBTS can go up 30% from here and set a weekly lower high. So I'm going to be watching for that. Still great volatility in both directions. Day trading these names, we had a drop from the high to the low. That's almost a 10% drop on the morning. And then, of course, the bounce, 26s. We end after hours up at 30. So we're still moving double digits in both directions. And there's plenty of volume and liquidity, which is exactly what day traders, short-term traders are looking for. So this sector does remain important to me for that reason. Onto the commodities. We're keeping it a bit shorter here due to my upload speed. Dollar resistance, 126. We got up to 136, starting a little bit of a pullback, still a daily uptrend here. And we're going to be keeping an eye on this daily uptrend when it's lost. Potential benefit for the metals as silver, we're going to look at in just a moment, trying to confirm a daily inverse head and shoulders. But we want to see the dollar weaken. I guess let's look at silver. So silver, the daily inverse head and shoulders, if it's going to confirm, it would be the left shoulder, head, and this is the right shoulder. There's a bunch of resistance in the low 49s. You can see we topped out 49.23, 49, and just now up at 48.73. So we're tightening up. Volatility is coming here. If this breaks bull, and again, I still have a long silver position, that's the weekly higher low off EMA 12. We could see continuation if this breaks bull. Just because this weekly consolidation, there are no red flags whatsoever. Again, EMA rider, if weekly EMA 12 is support on gold and silver, the bulls have complete control. And we look at gold, same deal. Weekly EMA 12 has been holding forever. And it's a little weekly inside bar. If that breaks bull this coming week, the higher low is set. That's then going to be our most important shorter term support level. And we'll see if the bulls can make their way back up towards the recent highs. Also wouldn't be surprised if we do get this higher low, just trade sideways for a few weeks, maybe even into December, and then look for the tight weekly range to break in December. But one day at a time there, the miners trying to bounce as well. Same deal, weekly higher low, grinding EMA 12, and on the verge of setting it. Look at that GDX resistance wall right at 73. You're going to be testing that first thing this week. Natural gas definitely standing out to me a bit. So the fact that UNG getting to the highest level in months is meaningful, but got to be cautious of a megaphone. Why? Because we got a bull break with no follow through, a bear break with no follow through. Are we about to get another bull break with no follow through and keep a megaphone going? If that's a question, a lot of people have the question, how do we tell if something has follow through or not? So zoom in and keep it simple. If we are going to hold and continue on this bounce, then we wouldn't break 1352. If we break 1352, we've got to be cautious of a megaphone and another bull break with no follow through. So that's the most important short-term level for me. I always want to pick a nice and clear level nearby where I say, if this breaks, I need to then, this is then what I think. And so it was the same thing with the NASDAQ. If the low of Wednesday breaks, because that was a nice reversal candle, if we bounce from there, bulls are fine. If this low from Wednesday breaks, the probability of a daily lower high next time we bounce increases significantly for me. So everything that I do about analyzing an individual name or the market as a whole, I've got these levels where if this happens, the probability of this will increase or decrease significantly. And so that's where we stand. Got to be paying attention to the headlines just because we are reacting to them in the short term. Again, the poly market is not anticipating a resolution here in the next few days. So if that were to happen, that would definitely help the market bounce, in my opinion. But the longer it drags on, it's going to be just a little cloud hanging over and a little doubt for the bulls and perhaps a little momentum for the bears. But an impressive drop. I've been impressed with the 4-hour bear control. And now it's just a question, do we confirm the daily downtrend and lose weekly EMA 12 support? Because again, that would then shift probability significantly that monthly consolidation is coming. So that's where we stand. I hope you're all well. We'll check back in. Crypto had relative strength on Friday at the end of the day into the bounce as well. So did NVDA. So those names that stood out with relative strength Friday are more likely to form higher lows as a result of their consolidation. Do good things. Not going to do a crypto stream on Tuesday, but I will on Thursday. See you then.